Against Jameson Perdue, it's Demir Inverter versus Mono White Devotion, folks. Yes, Mono White, that means the deck that has Heliod, Arcanist Ally Imagine, and so much more. We'll see that in just a moment. We're underway. Thraben Inspector is where we're going to start this show. For Perdue, he'll have a clue. And now Thoughtseize is going to reveal a hand of Arcanist Owl, Baffling End, Banalish Marshal, Tomic, Distinguished Advocist, and Anaphenta, Kintree Spirit. So I'll tell you what, looks pretty fair to me.
It's a lot of white mana symbols.
Sure is. Alongside Nykthos.
But really important here for Perdue, missing a second Plains right now. Even if he misses on the draw step, gets another look at it with a clue, and still has a land drop next turn in Nykthos. So a lot of things can go wrong with his hand, but it doesn't take a whole lot for him to have a very smooth curve, Nykthos, and a bunch of mana symbols to pay off down the road.
Now, unsurprisingly, you're going to find 4 copies of Walking Ballista and Heliod Sun Crown, so the combo does live in the deck, as Anaphenta, Kintree Spirit's going to bite the dust. Ingram's going to play a Fabled Passage and pass the turn back. But you're also going to find a couple copies of Gideon of the Trials, and that is a trump to what Ingram is looking to do with Inverter of Truths and winning the game. So if that situation does arise, we will cover it. We'll let you know exactly how that does work with the Gideon emblem and Gideon's being on the battlefield.
Huge draw there for Perdue. They're playing number 2 coming off the top of the deck. 3 mana symbols, so Nykthos is net neutral starting next turn, and anything past that, now you're starting to generate extra mana.
Peter did sacrifice that Fabled Passage for an island. He's going to sacrifice another one right away. This will get him a swamp that enters the battlefield tapped.
If you're going to do this anyway, and you're following up with something like Thought Erasure, might as well thin the deck out a little bit.
And that's exactly what Ingram's going to do. So here is Thought Erasure. Again, you got the Owl, the Marshal, the Baffling End, and the copy of Nykthos. And there goes the Banalish Marshal. And we're going to head back Perdue's way after Ingram gets done surveilling. He's going to leave that card on top. And we are heading Jameson's way. Jameson's going to draw a card. Looks like he picked up a copy of Walking Ballista. And does he want to sacrifice a clue? Or does he want to go to the Ballista as he deploys his copy of Nykthos? A 3 of here. Not a deck that relies on it, but it is a deck that does have it.
A little light on the big mana payoffs that you associate with something like Green Devotion.
Here comes Tomic and Thraben Inspector. Ingram going to fall down to 14. I know there is a Baffling End. That's just something to deploy. It's not pretty. and you see Ingram's going to take a look and say, don't you have to target one of your own things? And it's like, no, I don't. As an additional source of devotion to make it so that Nykthos is actually going to generate mana now.
So I think Ingram is at a sort of a crossroads here. I think he has Inverter plus Oracle plus Dig Through Time in hand. So he can either dig now and get the graveyard down to nothing, try to float through one more turn and do everything in one shot. Or alternatively, can just cast the Inverter right now, go down to a 4-card deck, and hope that he can find a way to cobble together enough turns to be able to play Thassa's Oracle and win in one turn.
It is worth noting that Ingram did beat this matchup last round. In the feature match area, off camera, was hanging out around there and saw that he was able to get by. Did lose a game to Mono White Devotion, but ended up winning the match. So we head back over to Jameson Perdue for now, as he wants to get the Owl on the battlefield. So here is Arcanist Owl. We'll take a look at the top handful of cards. And he gets to get a Heliod Sun Crown. And the 1-2 punch now is available here for Jameson Perdue in Heliod and Walking Ballista. And that Nykthos is going to fuel that in a very meaningful way. So for now, here comes an attack for 3. Ingram is down to 11. Here's that dig through time that you mentioned, partner. So top 7, 2 coming with Peter Ingram.
The hope here, if you're Ingram, find one spell that allows you to get through the following turn 5, and then turn 6, land number 6, very few cards in the graveyard, and just do it all.
Now, do remember there is a dig through time in the graveyard now. So there's at least one card in the graveyard. Ingram's going to put those 5 cards on the bottom. He's found 2 that he's happy with, so he's untapping those 4 lands. He's drawing. Turn number 5 here for Peter. He's got to be a little bit worried. But for now, he was thinking about going to Inverter. And he will. So goodbye, deck. Hello, deck being dig through time. Pass the turn back.
So shields are down here.
Except for Fatal Push, right? That's it?
Yeah, but I feel like you would have seen Fatal Push cast because it doesn't break up any. If you're winning the game next turn with Thassa's Oracle, regardless, 1 card versus 2 cards in the graveyard is the same thing.
Yep.
And Fatal Pushing something might prevent lethal in some form or fashion, especially with Perdue leading on Nykthos. Every mana symbol matters. So I think we would have seen Fatal Push if it was there. It's probably just, you got to win right now or I'm untapping and winning the game.
Well, Nykthos for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Minus a pretty large number. As there is Walking Ballista. That's going to be a 4 power Walking Ballista. Peter will block there. That might be game then, yeah? Because in order for you to do it with Ballista, you need, so that's 4, 5, 6. So I think he may have been a mana short from going Ballista, Heliod. Here's Thassa's Oracle, right? Yeah. Ballista, Heliod, kill you?
Yeah.
Am I wrong about that?
Yeah, I think he was 1 short.
And note, he did play a land that turn to Jameson. So Jameson had the Owl, which is 4. Tomic, which is 2, that's 6. Baffling, which is 7. And then Thraben Inspector. So that's 8 mana, right, with Nykthos, and you play land. So that's 9 mana total. So you play Walking Ballista for 2.
Yep.
So you're down to 5. You play Heliod. That costs 3, so you're down to 2. And then you play Heliod's ability on a Walking Ballista. And that should be exactly enough to be able to deal infinite damage, unless I'm mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, that play is so straightforward and obvious, and Perdue is here at 8-0.
Yeah.
So I assume that if that was available.
I imagine there's a reason he didn't do that, because he did find Heliod off of the...
Right. You know, we know he was all rolled up.
Yeah, so he was all rolled up, so I'm not quite sure. I'd love to talk to him about that, but either way, Peter Ingram is going to win game number 1 here over Jameson Perdue. Demir Inverter up a game over Mono White Devotion. We take a look at the sideboards, and we will start with Perdue, who has 3 Damping Spheres, 3 Rest in Peace, 2 Glare of Heresy, haven't seen that one for a while, 2 Baffling In, 2 Stasis Snare, 2 Elspeth Conquers Death, and a Gideon Ally of Zendikar.
I mean, I'm guessing you would want the Gideon here. I think you would want the additional copy, the first copies of Rest in Peace. And past that, I mean, Stasis Snare is so mopey, but maybe you want a little bit more removal. I don't know. I like the Gideon and the Rest in Peace. A lot of modest cards here. For
Peter Ingram, it's 3 Jacevin's Prodigy, 2 Heroes Downfall, 2 Damping Sphere, 2 Legion's End. Here come the one-ofs in Narset, Parter Avails, Cast Down, Kalidas Trader of Get, Doomblade, another copy of Thassa's Oracle, and a Mystical Dispute.
So removal. Really like the Heroes Downfall, the Legion's End, the Doomblade, so on and so forth. I kind of want the extra copy of Thassa's Oracle in this matchup. I really don't think Perdue is that well equipped to interact with the combo. I kind of want to be as fast as possible, get away from the more controlling dimensions of the deck, and just have a bunch of Terminates and a fast ability to get to the combo.
Well, those are both options. Excuse me, those are the options for both players. Pardon me. As they shuffle up and get ready here for game number 2. Jameson Perdue will be on the play. We'll get to him in just a moment, but we want you to save some money on your magical cards. Patrick, talk to him about saving 10%.
10% on all singles through Sunday, through tomorrow. Now, that excludes pre-orders. So set that aside. But anything else you're interested, any older cards, 10% off throughout the entire website over at StarCityGames.com. Make sure to use coupon code SCG10. That's Star City Games, and then 10 for 10%, and save yourself 10%. StarCityGames.com.
Very well done.
Thank you.
I'd expect nothing less. Peter Ingram, number 10 on our leaderboard right now. Demir Inverter, his weapon of choice, as it oftentimes is. Again, he won SCG Richmond alongside Ely Cassis and Corey Baumeister, with this being their pioneer weapon of choice. And then that Players Tour event in Phoenix, Ingram made top 8 there with Dimir Inverter, and now he's 8-0 here. So clearly something is resonating with him when it comes to this deck.
He has been on fire, and often these little jumps are just a function of playing more and being more focused. What separates the middle of the rung pros from the people who are putting up the absolute best results? It can be small things, but all the details matter, and Ingram here very focused in 2019 and 2020 on pursuing professional Magic, and the early dividends this year have been extraordinary.
I see why there was a bit of an error in our commentary of the last game. The reveal, I'm being told, was not Heliod. It was Daxos.
Oh, sure.
It looked like Heliod to me.
Okay.
The artwork I'll tell you, the artwork with these cards. Also, how do you say that city from where Peter's from? Is that Wantagh?
I think that's Wantagh.
Wantagh? Oh, Wantagh. The G silent?
Probably.
All right, that makes sense. You're a Northeasterner. I don't know how these New York City names, they're a lot.
Yeah. Well, Long Island might as well be another country, but
sure.
Yes.
Sure. I mean, I still don't know where Danny Jessup's from. I couldn't tell you. Ronkakonkaponkapon is what I roughly believe it to be, but I'm probably incorrect. We'll start off with a Thraben Inspector here for Jameson Perdue. He'll draw, he'll attack very quickly. As you saw Peter Ingram start things off with a Watery Grave. This is a Plains, and that is that tricky Daxos that I thought was a Heliod. Thought Eraser. We'll show you a hand with Benalish Marshall, Knight of the White Orchid, and the very powerful Rest in Peace.
So good curve of beatdowns, and potentially a very meaningful piece of disruption in Rest in Peace.
Ingram going to think it through. And looks like he's going to select Rest in Peace. And now he'll do a little bit of surveilling. That island is headed to the graveyard. Back over to Jameson Perdue, we're going to go. That is a Plains. There is Benalish Marshall. Beat downs.
No combo this game.
It's called Beat Downs. Foss's Oracle. Put those cards to the bottom. Follow up. Fetid Pool is your favorite. Once we head back over to Jameson Perdue. Gideon of the Trials. The powerful 3-mana Planeswalker is now on the battlefield as well. Now this one makes it extremely difficult for Inverter to win because the first thing you do oftentimes is you create yourself a little emblem. And that means that you can't lose if you control a Gideon.
And the Inverter deck is not great at attacking Planeswalkers.
Well, the +1 means until your next turn, prevent all damage target permanent would deal.
Well,
so that shuts down
they still
the
have
Inverter.
downfalls and such.
Well, they normally have a downfall. They don't have a lot of ways to break this up because you shut down the Inverter and then you have the emblem. So the Gideon is actually protecting you from losing the game.
Now, Ingram is pretty loaded up on downfalls. He has one in the main and two more on the board.
Yeah, he's someone that has quite a few. A lot of people don't. And the general kind of stockish builds had a Hero's Downfall main for the mirror and then none in the sideboard. So Gideon of the Trials has changed the way that people have to do things. As here is Knight of the White Orchid. Be Idyllic Grange, and we're done. Ingram will tap out immediately because it's going to be too much to overcome all of those creatures and the Gideon with the emblem and the plus. Jameson Perdue runs over Dimir Inverter that game. We're all tied up getting ready for game number 3.
Very quick and aggressive clock with Ingram having to take a Rest in Peace out of the hand. Too disruptive for the Perdue side. Land number 3 off the top allowed Perdue to curve out very cleanly that game, and Ingram just being attacked on too many fronts.
Just 1 through 8, not 9 through 16. Actually, sorry, we'll do 9 through 16. Remember, again, as I mentioned earlier, Peter did win this matchup last round. Jameson Perdue would love to win this matchup now and be one of our only, and potentially the only 9-0 after day number 1 of competition. We've seen Jameson Perdue around the SCG Tour a little bit as well, so success to him is no stranger, that's for sure. I want to take a moment very quickly and go over our SCG Tour leaderboard here to close out day number 1 as well. Zach Allen still on top of things, 71 SCG points. He's off to a great start here again this weekend. He is 7-1 right now, so he's locked for day number 2. Harlan Fear, I believe, is 8. No, actually, no, excuse me. He's 7-1 as well, playing Mono Black Aggro here this weekend. Will Pulliam, I believe, still in day number 2 competition, and at least in contention. Corey Baumeister the same. Edgar Magiesh playing Saltide Delirium. Danny Jessup also playing Saltide Delirium. Danny started 6-0, and he said, I sure hope I don't go 6-0-0-3, as he's picked up back-to-back losses in round 7 and 8. Aaron Barrett and Matthew Dilks, they round out the top 8, but as we take a look at 9 through 16, that's where you're going to find Peter Ingram's name, 46 SCG points, which for most people would be really darn good.
Well, we've had just so many repeated finishes among our top 8 on our leaderboard right now. Often we've had, this person won an open, this person won an open, and there's some top 8 scattered. It's really saturated up at the top with these players having multiple wins, multiple top 8s. And so this early on in the season, normally, as you said, 46 points would be quite a lot, but the performance from our top players has been so exceptional so far that Ingram finds himself only in 10th place right now.
Yeah, Peter's had a really, really good start to the year, too, so to see him having to do some catching up, it's got to be, I'm sure, slightly frustrating for him, but if he's got to catch up, he's starting to do so here in this tournament. He is 8-0. He is a game away from being 9-0 with the deck that he absolutely loves. He's found a hand that he's happy to keep. And this third and final game will be underway here momentarily, as I think Jameson Perdue may be going down to 5 cards here. Not positive. But for those of you that are just joining us, thanks for hanging out as we put a close here on day number 1 of competition from the Indianapolis Convention Center here in Old Indy, a place that we stopped to many times here on the SCG Tour. Cedric Phillips, Patrick Sullivan, we're bringing you the action. Ryan Overturf and Emma Handy joining us, and of course Nick Miller's in the sideboard. He's doing your deck techs, picking your feature matches, doing your player spotlights all weekend long. Hashtag SCGINdy at SCG Tour to join the conversation on Twitter, because we're going to have a 9-0 after this round is done. And then we come back tomorrow for 6 more rounds in the Swiss, cut to a top 8, crown ourselves a champion here too. Our first individual Pioneer Open here on the SCG Tour. 801 players showed out for us. And it's clear to me that Pioneer might be Magic's most popular format right now. As here's the Thoughtseize.
It's a new puzzle, and people are definitely enjoying it so far.
Elspeth Conquers Death, Gideon, and Knight of the White Orchid.
6 cards here, so a fine keep, but an exceptionally bad hand.
Yeah, that hand's got some work to do. Just keeping it honest. An opt here for Ingram. Not sure if he has land number 2. Well, there's a Watery Grave, so he proves me wrong. Let's go back over to Jameson Perdue. And I suppose if Ingram did Thoughtseize on turn 1 via Choked Estuary, of course he's got the second land. Now there is a Drowned Catacombs. This is a Thassa's Oracle. So Trigger, take a look at the top 2. Fabled Passage on top, Inverter to the bottom. Ingram is cooking with gas as another Plains drawn here for Perdue. He'll just pass the turn back. We'll head back over to Ingram now. He'll very quickly draw and sacrifice that Fabled Passage. There is an island. And are we going towards a Jace or an Inverter?
I believe Jace will be the play.
This one might be a runaway then.
Just a little punch with the Oracle.
A little taste.
A little taste.
Another Plains there for Perdue. Not ideal. Here is Gideon. That will resolve. But given the battlefield that Ingram is starting to develop here, not too scared of the ally of Zendikar, as it'll pump out a knight ally. There's an island there for Peter.
Now, remember, he knows about Elspeth Conquers Death coming next turn. If he doesn't have a counterspell, it gets interesting because you really don't want to use the Hero's Downfall on the Gideon, because somewhere down the line, that's a really high-value target for Elspeth Conquers Death to get back. But also, in the short term, maybe not easy to manage this game with the Gideon unchecked.
A lot to think about right now. You see the Hero's Downfall lines up well. You can also see Ingram kind of agonizing over this decision. Doesn't look like he wants to go here. But it doesn't seem like the worst option to me.
It's just the long-term ramifications of Elspeth Conquers Death. If you Hero's Downfall the Gideon, Perdue gets to untap. Elspeth Conquers Death, your Planeswalker. And then he's a couple turns away from just getting the Gideon back.
Also true.
So you would like to find some other way to manage it if you could. But that might not be possible. It's possible that Gideon's just so much pressure that your hand's a little bit forced.
Well, Ingram is passing. Let's go to Perdue. Gideon of the Trials, the draw. There's the Plains. Here's the other Gideon. So now we're Gideon flooded. And he's going to right away make the emblem. So now if you're Peter Ingram, you have to knock out not one, but two Gideons.
Yeah, that's a huge play there because Ingram tanking and then ultimately saying go has the look of someone who might have the combo set up for next turn. Of just I'm going to use a removal spell if it comes to it, or dig through time, and then untap and be able to win the game.
Well, there's Hero's Downfall to take care of Gideon ally Zendikar. And now here's Dig Through Time. So next up here for Peter is he's got to find a way to take care of Gideon of the Trials. And do keep in mind that Elspeth Conquers Death, well, that is looming, and Ingram knows it. Looks like Jace Vryn's Prodigy among the options here. That one's pretty good.
I mean, if you're a ways away from being able to win the game, especially against a deck with no removal, Jace is really appealing.
Long dig through time here for Ingram before making his selection. This isn't a decision you can afford to get wrong.
Well, it's a tough spot, right? If you need to be able to answer all the Gideons and also not break it up over long enough of a timeline where Elspeth Conquers Death threatens to bring back a Gideon and undo all of your work.
Yep. Jace is going to go up. Hero's Downfall and an island placed into the graveyard.
Well, if he has kept a Jace Vryn's Prodigy, that Downfall is a huge hit.
Elspeth Conquers Death will bite the dust. That's a nice time to find Thought Eraser. And now Water Grave will go into the graveyard. Ingram's going to play a Fetid Pools, and now will he? Assuming he did. Play Jace Vryn's Prodigy, but it doesn't look like he has that in his hand right now.
He's got 5 in the graveyard and 3 mana left over and another dig, so you can just do it that way.
Yeah, back-to-back digs. Pretty brutal, right?
Yeah.
Perdue going to draw a card. 3 Inspector. And now sack the clue that the Inspector would make to draw another card. Looks like these Knight allies are thinking about coming into the red zone, perhaps. There's the Plains from Perdue. And now Gideon along with the Knight allies, are going to go after Jace. Stas's Oracle appears to be on blocking duty, and it's going to block the Gideon. Push will take care of a token, and Jace is going to fall down to 5 as Stas's Oracle is headed to the graveyard. We will be heading back to Peter Ingram, I think, in just a moment. Jameson Perdue needs to put on more pressure this game.
Or just hope that Ingram can't work his way through this Gideon. I mean, Ingram's hand is not particularly good past this dig-through time.
I was going to say, I think it's about to get a little bit better.
He's got multiple discard spells against an opponent with no cards in hand.
And we're going to delve 6, leave Hero's Downfall in the graveyard. Top 7 cards, 2 come in here for Peter. Oh, that's an easy one. Downfall now added to the hand. Didn't get a great look at that second card, but a huge find there for Ingram. You mentioned during sideboarding how he has loaded up on Hero's Downfall, where most players are only playing 1 in their 75, maybe a second one in their sideboard. Ingram has 3 copies through his 75.
And maybe it's motivated a lot by trying to get an edge in the mirror, but against a white deck with a lot of 3 and 4 and 5 mana plays and who's trying to lock you out with a Gideon emblem, Hero's Downfall is exceptional.
So how to move forward if you're Ingram, because now you just need to sequence everything appropriately.
Well, you would like to try to set up, especially now that we're approaching 8 mana, the sequence you would love to set up here, or even at 7 mana that he can do it, is end step Downfall any Gideon that you have, untap, discard spell, combo.
Inverter. Kiss that deck good. I mean, he's feeling good about this. There's Hero's Downfall. And then he just wins the game right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Boop, boop.
If there's nothing in Perdue's hands, they can interact. That's game.
And there is not anything there. Peter Ingram's going to get it done this turn right now. He's going to win this match over Jameson Perdue 2-1. Demir Inverter is going to take care of Mono White Devotion. And for Peter Ingram, a little raise of the eyebrows and a 9th win today means that he is X&O, top of the standings. And it feels like nobody can beat him when he's playing this deck.
And that was a gutsy moment to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
I mean, he could have played on and, sort of trusted his control cards to, maybe my opponent doesn't even have another Gideon ally Zendikar in their deck. If they're just on this one Gideon, then I can Downfall, untap, and go for it. But I think Ingram reading the situation correctly, that there's just a very limited number of cards that a mono white deck can have there against one draw step. Win for it, nothing there, and Ingram now at the top of the